Now let's get more perspective on the issues arising from the discussions at the expanded NEC meeting today. And I'm now being joined on the News at 10 live from our Abuja studios by the Deputy Director, Policy, Advocacy and Communication at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation's Nigeria office, Mr. Pt.2. Thanks for joining us on the News at 10.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. So from what you heard coming out of today's discussions, would you say the country is on the right track for sustained development?
So I think the message that our co-chair, Mr. Bill Gates, as well as our foundation would bring is that, there are many challenges in Nigeria, but there is a clear way forward. I think that, investments in physical capital, issues of economic growth are key, but Nigeria's greatest resource is its people. So we would say that while it's clear from the message from His Excellency the Vice President and the other participants that there's recognition of this, we need to continue focusing on strong implementation and make sure that we're continuing to move the country forward.
So you'd say that the switch from the focus on health, which we know the foundation for, to human capital development is deliberate. And are you finding it easy to break into that region?
Well, I would say that health is actually just a critical component of human capital. Human capital is often defined as health and education, but the way we see it at the Gates Foundation is, of course, those two, although we don't invest too much in education right now. Definitely health, but also ensuring that people have economic opportunity. So as Bill Gates said in his speech, we believe that it's important to invest in health, education, ensure that people have the nutrition and vaccines and other things that will ensure that they're able to be healthy and productive and have the knowledge and the skills they need to be successful. But they also need opportunities to be able to tap those skills and apply those skills in order to feed their families and to prosper. That can be through agriculture, that can be through financial inclusion, small businesses. So we have sort of an expansive view of human capital, but we do think that at its core, health is critical. And that's why the Gates Foundation invests so much in health here as well as in those other areas.
What's been your biggest challenge in investing in the key areas that you're talking about tonight? What's been your biggest challenge?
Well, I think, Nigeria faces many challenges. I think we can admit that. I think data is a critical challenge. As Bill Gates talked about in today's speech, data is key because without knowing what the problems are, and without knowing where they are and potentially what the solutions might be, it's impossible to solve them. So getting accurate data, transparency, and acknowledging where the challenges are is key. He gave an example in his speech today of immunization coverage rates in Nigeria. Last year in 2017, the government actually released updated immunization coverage rates that were lower than the year before. And we actually applaud them for that because they were using more accurate sources. So by acknowledging the true data, by acknowledging the more accurate sources and recognizing where the challenges were, that is the first step to being able to solve those challenges.
All right, thank you so very much, Deputy Director, Policy, Advocacy and Communication at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation office here in Nigeria, for joining us on the News at 10. Thank you. The former President, Olusegun Obasanjo, is asking women to play more prominent roles in Nigeria's politics as the 2019 general elections draw near. Chief Obasanjo believes that the progress of any nation is equal to the quality of its women. He warns that getting power won't be easy for women, but they have to roll up their sleeves and fight for a place in the political space. The former president was a keynote speaker at the annual Women in Business Conference in Lagos, with the global theme of women pressing for progress and a focus on women in politics and nation building.
More than anything else, do not let someone else create your world for you. For when they do, they will always make it too small. And it may not be the world you want for yourself. You women who have made it must empower other women to achieve their potential. In the 2019 election, women must have a place of honor. In the Coalition for Nigeria movement, which I have advocated and which is growing rapidly, and whatever political association will emanate from it, youth under 40 years will have 30%, and women will have 30% in composition of any of its organs. That composition must be transformed into political power at the executive and legislative level.
Former President's Chief Olusegun Obasanjo. We cross over to Abuja now. Here's Linda Akigbe. Linda.
Hello, Ijoma.
Hi.
And we begin with the judiciary. The federal government has opened its case against 4 members of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra who are standing trial for alleged treason. The 4 accused persons are being tried separately following the court's ruling, which separated their trial from their leader, Nnamdi Kanu, whose whereabouts is still unknown. The first prosecution witness, who testified against one of the accused persons behind a protective screen, told the court how one of the defendants, Bright Chimezie, admitted to being a member of the indigenous people of Biafra and how he received a radio station transmitter imported into the country by the group.
Lawyers and members of the public arrived at the court to meet a protective screen for the witnesses in line with the ruling of the court. The first witness behind the screen was to prove the allegation that the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Mr. Nnamdi Kanu, and his co-defendants had in 2014 and 2015 in Nigeria and London committed treasonable felony by importing radio transmitters for the purpose of their agitation for the secession of Biafra from Nigeria. Led in evidence by the prosecutor, the witness, a senior investigative officer from the Department of State Services, testified that one of the defendants, Mr. Bright Chimezie, made a confessional statement, and it was discovered through investigation that he was a member of IPOB and that he also took delivery of a radio transmitter that was imported into Nigeria by Mr. Kanu.
And we are happy, after a long while the case has commenced, after all the hitches, and we are optimistic that we are serious with this matter. And on the next adjourned date, we will continue to call all our witnesses. And we have all our witnesses ready, and we are ready to complete this case within the record time.
During cross-examination, the witness denied knowledge of how and when Mr. Chimezie was arrested by the DSS, saying that the defendant was investigated based on voluntary statements he made to the DSS. He also denied being a member of the team that investigated the defendant. When asked if he was aware that the defendant was arrested over 2 years ago, the witness answered in the negative.
The person that testified, if you were there, you would have seen that he wasn't straight at all, contradicting himself here and there, and knows nothing about the case, even the investigation. He didn't even take part in the investigation. So I wonder where we are going.
Justice Nyako adjourned the case to March the 28th for the continuation of trial. An application for bail filed by the counsel representing the first defendant, Mr. Bright Chimezie. Amaka Okafor, Channels Television News.
Still on legal matters, the trial of the former National Security Advisor to former President Goodluck Jonathan for money laundering allegations will now get accelerated hearing as the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja has fixed May the 2nd and 3rd for definite trial. Justice Hussaini Baba Yusuf announced the new trial date after being presented with the Supreme Court judgment of March the 2nd, which ordered accelerated hearing into the case. The court has, however, fixed April the 13th for a pre-trial conference to be attended by 7 senior advocates of Nigeria involved in the case to enable them take common positions on documents from prosecution and those from the defendants. The federal government had slammed charges against the former NSA, Sambo Dasuki, and 3 others on alleged money laundering and criminal breach of trust. Although the charges were filed in 2015, proper trial could not commence due to the failure of the federal government to allow the principal defendant in the matter, Sambo Dasuki, enjoy bails granted him by different courts since 2015. The House of Representatives is accusing the judiciary of disregarding the independence of the legislature over a restraining order by a federal high court which directed the National Assembly not to take any action on a bill amending the Electoral Act. The amended bill reverses the order of elections by placing the election of the National Assembly before the presidential election. Both houses of the National Assembly had passed the amended bill, But President Muhammadu Buhari declined assent to the bill on the ground that it interferes with the power of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. Correspondent Terry Ikumi has the report.
It was apparently a very important motion for the House of Representatives, as observed from the silence and rapt attention being paid by the lawmakers during a motion alleging breach of privilege of the House.
Having referred to Order 6, Rule 1, Paragraph 1, and having said that the collective privilege of this House has been breached, in relation to both the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 and the Legislative Houses Powers and Privileges Act 2017, the collective privilege of this House has been breached by Justice A.I. Chikere of the Federal High Court, Abuja.
This paved the way for lawmakers to bear their minds. One of the lawmakers, Ken Chikere, is husband to the judge who delivered the judgment.
I'm also here. I also believe that this place should be protected. And I believe that if anything is going wrong between the judiciary and the legislature, something must be done. We are human beings who are created by God.
A situation whereby we are fast approaching elections, as the judiciary is now taking wrong steps by way of misinterpreting our laws, arrogating powers that do not belong to them.
It will be recalled that on the 14th of March 2018, a federal high court in Abuja barred the National Assembly from further deliberations on the electoral sequence following President Buhari's refusal to assent to the bill. The Speaker of the House, Honorable Yakubu Dogara, speaks in strong terms, stating the need for the independence of Parliament to be respected as one of the three tiers of government.
The judiciary does not have the constitutional powers to dictate to us what should be on the agenda of legislation. We are not obligated to obey, except if we choose to.
The motion is eventually put to vote.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. The ayes have it.
The House of Representatives is strongly rejecting the judgment and is expected to set up an ad hoc committee to meet with the Chief Justice of Nigeria on the matter. For Channels Television News, Terry Ikumi.